Princess Leonor's latest official engagement matters for Spain's future queen. What if one of Princess Leonor's most important royal moments this summer didn't happen in a grand palace ceremony, behind a military podium, or inside Spain's parliament? What if it happened during what looked like a much simpler family occasion? On August 4, 2026, Princess Leonor joined King Felipe, Queen Letizia, and Infanta Sofia at Marivent Palace in Mallorca for the Spanish royal family's annual summer reception. At first glance, it might have looked like just another elegant royal appearance. But for Leonor, appearances like this are becoming increasingly significant. Because Spain isn't simply watching a princess grow up anymore. It is watching its future queen gradually become a working member of the monarchy. And the question is no longer simply, what did Leonor wear? The bigger question is, what is this new phase of royal life preparing her for? A different kind of royal moment. The Marivent appearance is interesting precisely because it wasn't presented as one of the most dramatic constitutional moments of Leonor's life. There was no oath, no succession ceremony, no major speech announcing a historic change. Instead, Leonor appeared alongside her family during the Mallorca summer season. But royal life isn't built only from spectacular ceremonies. Much of monarchy is repetition, showing up, meeting people, representing the institution, learning how to behave in different settings, understanding when to speak, when to listen, and when to simply be present. And that may be one of the most important lessons for Leonor, because eventually, she won't be appearing simply as the king's daughter. She will be appearing as the woman expected to carry the crown herself. Leonor is entering a new phase. Princess Leonor is now 20 years old, and her path is moving rapidly toward adulthood and full-time royal responsibilities. Her military education has been a major part of that preparation. She has spent years being trained not only as a future monarch but as someone expected to understand Spain's armed forces and eventually serve as their commander-in-chief as queen. Her military education also gives context to her public appearances. When Leonor walks into an official event today, the public is increasingly seeing someone with experience that goes beyond ceremonial appearances. She has already experienced environments requiring discipline, hierarchy, teamwork, and responsibility. And those qualities matter enormously for a future head of state. Why Marivent matters? Marivent Palace is closely associated with the Spanish royal family's summer presence in Mallorca. For years, the island has provided a different setting from the formal environment of Madrid. And that's important. A future monarch needs to be comfortable not only in formal state ceremonies but also in less rigid public environments. The annual summer reception gives the royal family an opportunity to interact with authorities and representatives in Mallorca. For Leonor, appearances in these settings help develop something that cannot simply be learned from a textbook: public presence. A monarch has to understand how to enter a room, how to greet people, how to listen, how to show interest, how to represent the institution without making the occasion entirely about herself. These may sound like small things, but over decades, those small things become part of a monarch's public identity. The subtle shift in Leonor's role, and this is where the appearance becomes more interesting. When Leonor was younger, her presence at royal events was often viewed through the lens of childhood. She was King Felipe and Queen Letizia's daughter. The future was distant. Her responsibilities seemed far away. But that's changing. Every official appearance now carries a different meaning. People are beginning to look at Leonor not only as a daughter of the king, but as the heir to the throne. That distinction changes everything. Her body language matters more. Her preparation matters more. Her public communication matters more. And even her ability to handle ordinary royal events becomes part of a much larger preparation. The importance of family. There is another fascinating element of the Marivent appearance. Leonor wasn't alone. She appeared with her parents and younger sister. That family setting matters because Spain's monarchy isn't represented by one person alone. King Felipe is the reigning monarch. Queen Letizia supports him in the public role of the crown. Leonor is the heir. And Sofia represents the younger generation of the family. For Leonor, growing into her future role doesn't mean separating herself completely from her family. In many ways, her family remains an important part of the environment in which she learns what royal life actually means. She can observe her father's way of dealing with official responsibilities. She can observe her mother's public communication. And she can learn how the family functions as an institution. Why her public image matters. There's another reason these appearances matter. A future queen doesn't inherit only a title. She inherits expectations. Spain's relationship with its monarchy depends partly on how people perceive the individuals representing it. That means Leonor's public image will gradually become increasingly important. But there is a difficult balance. She needs to appear prepared without appearing artificial, modern without abandoning tradition, approachable without losing the dignity expected of the crown, and confident without appearing detached. That's an extraordinarily difficult balance for anyone, especially someone who is still young, and every official engagement gives her another opportunity to develop it. This isn't just about clothes. Royal coverage often focuses heavily on fashion, and Leonor's clothing choices can certainly attract attention, but there's a danger in focusing only on appearance. The real story isn't whether her outfit was elegant. The real story is what she was doing. She was participating in a royal family engagement. She was appearing in an environment connected to public life in Mallorca, and she was continuing a pattern that will become increasingly normal as she takes on more responsibilities. Fashion tells us what the public sees. Duty tells us why she's there. And for the future queen, the second part is far more important. The bigger transition. Think about Leonor's journey. She began as a young princess appearing beside her parents. Then came increasingly important public speeches. Then her 18th birthday and constitutional oath. Then military training. Then more substantial official responsibilities. And now she is moving closer to the next major chapter of her education and adult life. That progression isn't accidental. The Spanish monarchy has been gradually preparing her for a position that demands enormous institutional knowledge. The crown isn't simply about standing on a balcony. It involves constitutional responsibilities, diplomacy, national representation, and relationships with institutions across Spanish society. And Leonor is gradually being exposed to those worlds. The university chapter. Another major part of Leonor's future is education. After completing her military training, her next academic stage will become an important part of her preparation. Reports have indicated that Leonor is expected to begin university studies later in 2026, following her military education. That transition is significant. Military training develops discipline and leadership. University education can provide something different: intellectual preparation. A future head of state needs to understand politics, economics, history, international affairs, and the institutions that govern a country. So when we look at Leonor's recent public appearances, we shouldn't see them as isolated events. They are pieces of a much larger preparation. Why Spain is watching there is also a generational dimension. King Felipe represents the current generation of the Spanish monarchy. Leonor represents the next. And the transition between those generations is already visible. Felipe remains king, but Leonor is increasingly being prepared for the day when the responsibilities of the crown eventually pass to her. That day may still be years away. There is no reason to assume otherwise. But monarchies prepare long before transitions happen, and that's why seemingly ordinary appearances can become historically interesting. When historians eventually look back at Leonor's journey, they won't only examine the day she becomes queen, they'll examine the years of preparation that came before it. The detail people may miss. Here's the detail that can easily be missed. Leonor doesn't need every appearance to be dramatic. In fact, the most important preparation may happen through repetition. Attend the event. Meet the people. Listen. Observe. Represent the institution. Return. Do it again. And again. And again. Over time, these experiences create confidence. That's how public figures become comfortable with responsibilities that once seemed enormous. And that may be exactly what we're seeing with Leonor now. The transformation from princess to future monarch doesn't happen in one afternoon. It happens gradually, one engagement at a time. The real meaning of the Marivent appearance. So what does the August 4th appearance actually tell us? It doesn't mean Leonor has suddenly become queen. She hasn't. It doesn't mean King Felipe is stepping away from his responsibilities. He isn't. And it doesn't mean Spain is preparing for an immediate succession. There is no basis for that conclusion. Instead, the significance is more subtle. Leonor is increasingly visible as an adult member of the institution she is destined to lead. The public is becoming accustomed to seeing her not simply as the king's daughter, but as the future holder of the crown. And that psychological transition matters. Because one day, when she does become queen, the Spanish public will already have watched her grow into the role. What comes next? The most fascinating part is that this is only one chapter. Leonor's future will involve more education, more military experience, more official engagements, more speeches, more international exposure, and eventually, much greater constitutional responsibility. Every step will be watched, every appearance will be analyzed, and every decision will contribute to the public image of the woman Spain may one day call queen. That is why an event that looks relatively simple today can become much more interesting when viewed from the perspective of the future. Powerful conclusion. Narrator. Princess Leonor's latest official appearance may not have been the loudest royal event of the year. There was no dramatic proclamation, no throne room ceremony, no historic succession announcement. And yet, perhaps that's precisely why it matters. Because a future queen isn't created in one spectacular moment. She is shaped through thousands of smaller moments. Through education, through discipline, through public service, through meeting people, through learning how to represent an entire country while remaining herself. And as Leonor continues stepping into these responsibilities, Spain is witnessing something remarkable: the gradual transformation of an heir into a monarch. The crown may still belong to King Felipe, but with every official engagement, Princess Leonor is taking another step toward the day when it will belong to her. And perhaps years from now, when we look back at these seemingly ordinary appearances, we'll realize they were never ordinary at all. They were preparation, one engagement at a time. But there's something else happening in Leonor's life that could be even more important than this appearance: her next stage of education. And that decision could shape the kind of queen she eventually becomes.